Hi, Amy.
Happy.
Last night was Before the 90 Days, Season 7, Episode 12. And our bonus content, as usual, is for The Other Way. Season 6, Episode 20. We are at the end.
Yay!
Ish.
Finally.
Yes. And also good news. This week we're back in video. So if you prefer to watch our podcast, head over to our YouTube channel at 90 Day Fiancé Honestly. Also, just another quick reminder, next month, we're launching our subscriber-only content, which will cover the new season of The Last Resort. This show will be available through Apple and Spotify only, with a monthly cost of just $4.99 per month. Okay, that's not a lot. And our regular free podcast, always there's a free podcast, ad-free as well, will continue to cover the 90 Day Fiancé shows that air on Sunday nights on TLC. Yay! And as we have a bumper edition of 90 Day Fiancé Honestly today, let's dive right in. We've got a lot to cover.
But it was surprisingly a good episode.
It was substantial. Let's start off with Veah and Sunny.
I thought at first that they were acting very mature with the whole sex thing, and then it just blew up.
Yeah. As soon as Veah started talking about going to meet Rory, I thought, oh no, too soon, don't do it now. Because Sunny was definitely putting out the vibes that he's still insecure in their relationship. He does not feel emotionally secure. He does not feel comforted. He's not ready. So why is she pushing him to do this just because they had a nice, intimate evening together? It's not enough.
I don't know why she was rushing it. I wonder if it's because she just wanted to hang out with all three of them together.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't wrap my head around why she would want to do that.
Yeah, it's as if she just wants to ride this high that they have of having finally connected intimately the night before, and she wants that to be enough to carry Sunny through this very excruciating meeting without having built up the trust between them yet, without having built up the emotional stability yet. He doesn't have enough reassurance from Veah that he is the man for her yet. And this is such a precarious position to put him in. So they go to meet Rory. This is so stupid. It's so awkward. The half bro hug, nobody knows where to look. It's like, should I hug him? Should I shake his hand?
And then did you notice that as soon as he shook Sunny's hand, Rory put on hand sanitizer?
No, I didn't catch that.
And then he immediately picks up the pool cue, and I'm assuming that he didn't bring his own pool cue. So did he sanitize that too, or was he just sanitizing against Sunny's germs?
Ouch. The weirdest part for me was that Veah just kind of sits back and watches this whole thing unfold in front of her eyes without participating at all. It's as if she's willing them to get along, to become best bros, but she does absolutely nothing to help the process. She's not facilitating. She's not intervening. She just shuts her mouth and watches and holds her hands together with her little claws ready to scratch.
Talons.
Yes,
I thought it was very telling that she was so quiet, especially because the men were like puffing their chests and doing their manly things and really like fighting over her and, finger pointing, it's your fault. Why are you here? Yet nobody looks at Veah and says, why did you bring your ex-boyfriend here?
Yeah.
Why is it either of the men's faults and not Veah's? She has nothing to do with this.
Well, I think Sunny is right at the end where he's putting the burden on her to decide. Look,
that's after though.
Yes, after that. But I mean, they do eventually get to the point of coming to her and saying, you have got to make the decision here. Can Rory go back or will he stay? And obviously, if he stays, that's very much a problem for Sunny. If he goes, that is enough of an indicator to Sunny that Veah is with him. She is on his side, that he will feel better about their relationship. But of course, she has this whatever it is that's happened in her past that makes her so scared of situations where she's alone with a man that she doesn't know very well. And yet I can't help but wonder, but isn't the crew there also? I know they're not maybe as easy to access as Rory would be because he knows her history. But it's not as if Rory goes back to the US right now, that Veah would be entirely alone with Sunny. She still has a bunch of crew members there. So she's really, really scared of being alone with this guy, even though supposedly he's the love of her life.
So confusing.
It is. It is. There's really no resolution to this. This is all we get, is just this tension between the two men. Sunny was storming off again because Veah doesn't support him in the way that he needs to be supported. So we will have to wait until next week to find out if things are okay and if she can mend this fence.
I think that this woman is severely broken. She's been through a lot of trauma. And again, with the therapy, she really, really needs to get into that.
Yeah. Yes. We say it over and over again. Nobody listens.
Why would they? What do we know? But I wanted to make one last comment, if I may.
Absolutely.
The musicians who created the score for this, especially the last segment, when they're walking into the pool bar, the tension was palpable and the music really supported that. I actually looked up from my notes and I'm like, oh, here we go. So, great job.
Kudos to the sound producers on the show this week.
Yes.
All right, let's go to Magda and Joe. Magda?
It's Magda, but
Yeah.
Joe calls her Magna, and it was very confusing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I should use a different word because I said Veah was confusing. Anyway.
Let's just see what happens with Joe, which is that at last he finally answers his phone. He opens the door. He has been asleep all this time.
So he claims.
Well, I believe it. He comes to the door with this white stuff all over his face, which is probably zit cream.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly he's not ready, even though he has known about this trip for some time. He has not packed anything. He has 20 minutes to get his suitcases ready and get out the door. And he's showing his outfits to the producers, saying, isn't this cool? And should I bring this or that?
And they're like, we don't have time for this. If the producers are telling you and it's actually contained in the edit, you should probably hurry up.
Yeah. At this point, he has 2.5 hours left before his flight leaves. Yes, he hasn't packed the night before. The producers are the ones who have to urge him to get out the door. They do leave, which is amazing in of itself. But then they have to turn back and go back to his apartment because he forgot his bloody passport.
Of all things to forget, when you're going on any flight, for me, any flight, international or nationally, I always bring my passport. So it's always phone, keys, wallet, passport.
Yes, absolutely. But I think this is a perfect indicator of how unserious Joe is, because not only did he forget one of the most important pieces of property that you have to take with you to the airport, as you just mentioned, but also not having packed the day before, the night before, the week before, but within the last 20 minutes that you have left before you have to race to the airport, shows that you're not really the kind of person who's an adult. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. My notes say that he's not showing good character, and I would never hire this man to sell my house because he can't organize anything worth a shit.
No. All you have to do is wake up, pack your stuff, be at the airport on time. It's not that much.
But he also said he was up all night. So why couldn't you have packed at any point?
Yeah, exactly. What was he doing all night long that it was so distracting he couldn't get himself organized? As you say, not somebody that we would ever hire, but also somebody who is very much the way that he has been portrayed in the first episode, which we saw last week, which is not mature, not serious, not really following the course of this relationship to the degree that somebody who really wanted it would.
Huh?
He's a child.
He is.
Okay. So he does make it to the airport, wonder of wonders, and he only has an hour left until I don't understand how this works because, like you were mentioning last week, in Canada, if we have an international flight, we have to be there 3 hours. If you want to put your suitcase on the plane, it has to be checked in 2 hours before. And if you want to check yourself in, you have to be there 1 hour before at the very, very, very least.
Did he check in the night before? We don't know.
I don't know either, but even so,
Either way,
he has to check his bag 2 hours before his flight if he's leaving from Canada, which obviously he's not.
but you saw that line.
Yeah, I know. It didn't make sense to me.
How did he get through so quickly?
Exactly.
And how did he get through so quickly?
And he said when he was running to the gate, he said he's got 30 minutes left. And he said, I think they're boarding in about 20 minutes or in about
I think
10
it was
minutes.
10.
And I was like, you mean they only spend 20 minutes boarding the plane? Is this like a teeny tiny plane with only 10 seats? Because anyway, we're getting caught up in the weeds here. But just to say that this did not make sense and this guy is not serious.
And his lack of responsibility. Where's the apology to the production team? Like, could you imagine having to run through the airport after this guy who has very poor time management skills with all of the camera equipment?
No,
Can
I
you
don't.
imagine how pissed off production would have been at that point?
Was he not filming any of this himself? But they were definitely with him, I know, when he was before the gate.
Yeah, I feel like they were chasing him, weren't they? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Let's go to Magda because this was really, really interesting.
What?
She has a dog, and her dog has only bitten one person, and that person happens to be Magda's ex. And the place on which the dog bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The dog bit her ex's penis, she says. How was this achieved? He was in her apartment, she said, by himself, and the dog bit his penis. I need somebody to draw me a diagram.
So I've actually witnessed this myself.
You saw him get bitten?
Not this specific dude, but I have seen my ex get bitten.
On the penis?
Several times.
Yeah.
And several times in front of a dog trainer. That's why we got the dog trainer.
With pants on. Okay.
Yes, with pants on.
Okay.
Yes. I'm assuming that Magda's ex was wearing pants and the dog was, just protecting her apartment, or I don't know. But I've seen it happen through the pants.
Okay. Through the pants makes a lot of sense. I was picturing naked person in the apartment with the dog, and I'm like, why are you showing your penis to the dog? And perhaps you deserve to have it bitten. I don't know, but very interesting story. And then her second very interesting story is that she knows how to kill people in a few minutes. Is that part of being a prison guard in Poland? You have to know how to kill people, but somewhat slowly, obviously, not quickly, slowly. A few minutes.
A few minutes is pretty slow.
Yeah. Why would you have to learn this particular thing?
And also, why are you bragging about it? What are you trying to achieve with announcing this information?
Unclear, but still very intriguing detail. I would like to know more, please. And also, final interesting thought from Magda is that she may be another James from The Other Way, because she has left her family, moved to another country for a partner. Not that James moved to another country.
Isn't that how she moved to Poland?
No, she moved to Germany to be with her ex-boyfriend. That didn't work out, so she came back to Poland to be with mom. And as we know, James moved to Florida and then with his ex and then moved back to Indonesia. All that. Anyway, same mistake it looks like, because that guy cheated on her. Joe has cheated on her, or possibly not cheated on her, depending on how you view the situation. but now she is looking at doing the same thing again, moving to another country. And final note, she's only 23.
Yeah. And she's already quit her job as a corrections officer that she only had for a year.
Mm-hmm.
She quits her job before she even meets this dude. And look at this dude. I mean, obviously she hasn't seen what we've seen thus far. But
Yeah,
ooh,
I know.
you're in for a world of trouble.
I have no words yet because I can't even begin to fathom what kind of awful, awful mess these two are going to get themselves into. It will be a disaster.
It absolutely will, especially when you think about how regimented corrections officers need to be
Mm-hmm.
and how Joe is the exact opposite. I think that's going to drive her nuts.
And I do have one teeny tiny little final note because nothing else really happened except for that they met at the airport. But in that meeting at the airport, we had a 90-day fiancé first, which is that we got to see a person's bum, which was obviously blurred out. But never have we had a meeting at the airport like this, where the woman jumps into the man's arms and he pulls up her skirt so that her cheeks are on full display. I thought that was very tasteful of Joe. And Magda. I suppose it's both of their fault.
Tasteful was my word.
Shall we move on?
Please.
All right, up next are Brian and Ingrid, and my first comment is I didn't want to talk about them anymore.
I would very much like to skip these people, but I do enjoy Ingrid, although I think she's trying too hard. She's trying to make this work way too hard. Even though, we've praised her on so many different occasions for calling him out, for seeing the red flags, for being cautious, but she seems to really be enjoying spending time with him, and I find that very concerning. And I also find it very concerning that he found time yet again to buy her kid another gift.
That was my first note. More presents for Ingrid's son. Brian is definitely trying very, very hard to buy this kid's affection.
Yep.
Gross. Yeah. So they go on their second romantic getaway, this time to Recife. And I love, this is another kudo to Ingrid. I love that she insists on having her own hotel, different building than where Brian is staying. Great, so she feels safe. I love that they go on the bike ride with Ingrid riding the bike. I just thought it was so funny. It was a beautiful metaphor. And pulling Brian behind her like a dog on a leash.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you can't write this stuff. It's so good.
It reminded me back in gym class. Sorry if this is too much of a personal story, but it's just a story. Back in gym class, we used to ride around on these little square scooters with the 4 wheels on them. And then we would whip each other around and then let each other go. We would just fly away. And I really thought she was going to do that with Brian right into the ocean.
Or into a passing car. That's awful. Why did I say that?
You said that, not me.
Shush. You know what I found very odd about the way that they interact is that they make a lot of funny noises. It's like watching a cartoon sometimes. When they're talking to each other, they make all these weird sounds and they're talking in these big voices. It's kind of bigger than life. And I don't know if it's just the Brazilian way because the Brazilian people are very kind of song-like in the way that they speak to each other. It's quite beautiful. But I found it a little bit off-putting, the way that these two are like, just overacting. And I thought that kind of, to me, symbolized that Ingrid's true feelings are not really in this because she's trying to force it. And Brian is just doing it because he wants to get that same response back from her.
I hope that you're right.
I don't know. Just a feeling.
I didn't notice the noises, but I did notice the sing-songiness, especially when, I don't know if it's because it's Brian's second language, but he's like, sing, sing, and then he leads into another sentence. And I can't imagine just talking like that and be like, and then, yes, and then we go,
but
yes.
It is like that. The Brazilian Portuguese is like that. It's very sing-songy.
I'm sure I would love it coming out of anyone's mouth but his.
All right. So they're talking about the future. And pretty
Why?
quickly, well, because Brian wants to lock it down, of course.
No, I couldn't believe that she was actually like talking.
Yeah, that she was entertaining the conversation was pretty wild.
Yeah.
I also thought that she would have shut it down and said, no, I don't really want to talk about this. But she goes along with it. She's a good sport. And Brian goes from, let's talk about our future. What would it look like if you came to the US? If I was to live here, you were to live there, what's going on? They go from that to basically, I need a nurse. Because I'm getting older, I'm going to be old really soon, and I need somebody to wipe my butt. Can you do that for me? And was she saying, or was I mistaken, that she would prefer to hire somebody to do that job?
Pretty sure she said something to the effect of, I'm happy to help, but there are things that I will not do.
That's what I heard too, that she's not going to take on this role of the nurse, that she would prefer to leave those duties to somebody else and for their relationship to be, I guess, in a way, like romanticized, if that's the right word, without the wiping butt stuff and without the stuff that maybe would detract from their relationship being the way it is now or the way it will be shortly if they continue on together. So I appreciated the fact that she was being really honest with him about where she stands with that particular subject. But what was fascinating was that he immediately sees this response from Ingrid as a failure of her character. And he basically condemns her for it and says it's such a disappointment. I was like, way to show your true colors, Brian. Because now we know, I mean, we suspected it from the start, but now we know for sure that he's looking for somebody to look after him.
He wants a sex maid.
Yeah.
Is that? Yeah, I think that's the right term.
Yeah. Yeah. So sex maid / nurse, would that be fair?
Yeah, I think so. We called this from the very second that they got to the hotel. That very second. And just to see him come out and say this, like, I'm surprised.
This is my catheter.
Yeah, he's just so gross.
Yeah.
So creepy.
Well, I just can't help but be amazed every time he brings it round and puts the onus or the blame on Ingrid for her honest and true reaction. This is who she is, and it's her decision. She can choose to go along with it and say, yes, Brian, I agree. I will be your nurse as you get older and need that kind of care. Or she can say, you know what, that really doesn't appeal to me. I don't think I can do that. So no, or something in between, which is what she basically ended up saying with, I will do some things, but not all things.
And I think that's fair of her to say.
Yeah, exactly. It's her choice. It's her decision. So for him to say she's such a disappointment because she doesn't want to be my nursemaid is baloney. That's so judgmental.
And when you think about it, they spent the first night together, when he pulled the whole catheter thing.
Yeah.
And then they haven't spent the night together since. At what point do you think about that and say, perhaps I made a mistake and I need to acknowledge her boundaries and I need to respect them? No.
He's just not that kind of person. He really does not see outside of himself very well at all. Yeah. So that's all I had written down for them. Do you have any others? No. Right. So next are Vanja and Bozo. I loved the start of this segment when Vanya's talking to her cousin online, shows her the plant, and says that the plant is keeping her company. It was such a sad statement, but I think that is exactly what will happen and is happening. The plant is going to be her companion for the next 3 weeks.
Is the plant going to be her companion, or do you think that Bozo's friends are going to start keeping her company?
I don't think his friends would do that to him. Maybe
I don't
they
think
would.
so. I just like the idea of it.
Yeah, I like the idea of it too because they seem to appreciate her so much more than he does. But no, I don't think that's gonna happen. Anyway,
Just wishful thinking.
yeah. Bojo still isn't with her at this point. Like, he's not in her apartment as she's talking to her friend. We know that he hasn't been staying with her at all. It really doesn't feel like he's going to be spending much time with her, especially given that he isn't feeling any romantic connection to her. No chemistry.
Mm-hmm. And he makes it even more obvious when he says that, she should spend some time alone. Perhaps on the beach and just breathe.
Yeah, well, those comments were terrible and they were devastating, but they come after this whole segment in the bar with the friends. Like,
Yes.
Vanya's actually excited about the fact that Bojo has invited her to go meet his friends. She thinks that that's a good indicator of his future potential as her boyfriend. Yeah. Yeah. So she has this opportunity to go meet his friends, to establish a stronger connection with Bojo, to even get some information on Bojo from the inside, from his pals. And she sits down with them. The friends say that she looks like Bojo's ex-girlfriend, which is a huge red flag to me. I immediately thought, here we go. Confirmation that Bojo is still in love with his ex because he's choosing people that look like his ex to date.
Mm-hmm.
And even though the friends kind of come onto Vanya's side and support her in everything that she's saying about how she has felt the connection with Bojo, but he's not returning that sentiment to her, and in fact has kind of friend zoned her. So she's got the friends on her side. She's starting to be a little bit overbearing with her commentary. She's applying a lot of pressure to Bojo, trying to get him to act. And I understand where she's coming from. Like, when you don't get the response from the person that you're interested in that you want, so they don't return the feelings that you have, and you want them to do that, there is a tendency to kind of want to push them by, I don't want to use the word manipulating, but I guess it is manipulation, by forcing them to, by kind of shaming them into it, by revealing to their friends, oh, he's not reciprocating, he's not kissed me, he's not showing any affection, he's not spending a lot of time with me. But she pushes it too far. She takes it a step too far when she says that she starts complaining to his friends about his behavior. She starts labeling that behavior as bad. She starts talking about it in a deprecating kind of way. And she's tearing him apart, basically, in front of his friends, which is never a good thing to do to a guy. Totally, totally bad idea.
Especially the first time that you meet his friends.
Yeah. And as she's saying all of these things that get increasingly worse and increasingly serious, I keep saying to myself, please stop talking, Vanya. This is going to backfire. This is going to come back so badly to bite you on the butt. Please just shut up now. And then Bojo starts off with this beautiful sense, like, I appreciate your honesty or something like that. But I think you should go spend some time on your own. I don't think we should spend much time together anymore. I think you should go home alone. Like, what? He flipped on a dime, didn't he?
He kiboshed the whole thing in a sentence.
It was brutal. Granted, yes, she drove him to that point. But still, I didn't think that he was gonna dive off the deep end quite so suddenly and decisively, just letting her go. Bye-bye. Bye, Vanya. See ya.
It's like breaking up with her in front of his friends. It's embarrassing for everyone involved.
Absolutely, for everybody involved. Yeah, for both of them.
It was uncomfortable.
Yeah. But I mean, that's really the only place it could go once she started down this path of being so hurt by the fact that he's not responding, reciprocating, that she decides to shame him in front of his friends. Poor Vanya. My heart still goes out to her because she's made this big mistake, but especially because Bojo has taken it so badly and basically told her to go,
Leave.
politely.
Okay.
All
So
right.
now they're done. Great.
Now they're done. Well, we don't know for sure because we will see next week. But the couple that is done for certain is Renee Chitty. Why is she
Glorious.
back again?
It's the last one.
I really don't want to have to talk about the chicken lady anymore. Everything she says is nonsense. It's backwards. It's projection. Every word that comes out of her mouth about Chitty is actually about her. She can stop talking now. She can go disappear. She can walk into the dark cloak of anonymity or go to outer space because I know she really wants to be with her alien friends. So go there and do that, Renee. We won't miss you one bit. Thank you.
You know what I noticed? It's outside of Chitty's place. There were a ton of wild chickens.
Mm-hmm.
And at no point did she try to make friends with them.
She did try to make friends with them in the very first episode when she was in Nigeria.
But wasn't that just at the market?
I don't know if it was at the market or at his house or just on the way to the market.
It could have been a stock clip, but they had this clip of all these chickens running around, and I'm like, oh, Renee, didn't you say that you were friends with fine chickens, but not these ones? You don't like Nigerian chickens?
She did. She tried to save the Nigerian chicken that was going to become their dinner at the market.
The one.
The one
And
chicken.
then I wonder, did she end up eating chicken later on in that visit?
Well, that is the hypocrisy of it all, that she is the crazy chicken lady who proclaims herself to be a friend to chickens, and yet she does eat chicken. Okay, enough said.
All right, shall we move on?
Yes! Loren and Faith. Whoopee. It's meet the family day at last.
Sounds like a day that I would like to skip.
Do you think it is possible for Loren to make a good impression? When you first watched it, before you got to the end of the segment, did you think that he was going to make a good impression, or did you think he was going to fail miserably?
Failure. I don't think that this man has been successful at anything in his entire life.
Right. And yet, they did seem to like him. The sisters were encouraging Faith. Now, this is before the second part where she goes and talks to them privately. But at this point, they were encouraging her to pursue the relationship with Loren. I was like, how on earth does this man, who does not have a job, does not have a home, does not have money, is a deadbeat dad, has STDs, is a cheater, how does this guy come across as a great potential son-in-law, brother-in-law, whatever?
Shall we add on to that list? Eating like an absolute savage.
Yes. Good observation. I was really, really worried about him when he started scraping food off a plate in midair into his mouth. Fortunately, the family did notice that and did think it was a little bit funny, but still, that was not enough to deter them from believing that this is a good match for Faith.
And calling him handsome.
Yeah.
There's nothing good looking about that man. But going back to the food thing, I did note that, so this is jumping ahead a little bit, but it's about the food. He went out for lunch and he ate normally.
He did.
So why was he, I don't even know the words, just shoveling it into his mouth, but he was like pushing it from the plate into his mouth. Like,
it's so weird that I don't even understand how you could even get to that point of thinking that it's okay to do that. And nobody else was doing it. It's not as if it's a custom.
And yet he still gave a positive impression.
Yeah. Until the next day. Okay? So we do get Faith going off alone with her two sisters to talk and have a real heart-to-heart while Loren does his normal eating in a place, bar, pub, I don't know, restaurant. And their response here when they find out that not only does he have an STD, but he was cheating on Faith is basically what I have feared from the moment that we found out that they were going to go meet the family, which is that because both Faith and her sister Veah are trans women, they feel like it's so rare for them to be able to find a man who wants to be with them that they have to kind of make the best of whatever they can get. So even knowing what they know about Loren, they're still kind of encouraging Faith to pursue it.
They definitely are encouraging her because they said it was great that she quote unquote bagged an American.
Yeah, that was not a nice sentence to use.
And then it's a dream to be with a foreign man.
Yeah, there was a bit of pressure there, especially when they were telling Faith that she has to tell Loren how she truly feels, which indicates to me that they believe that Faith is in love with Loren and that she has to just kind of overlook all of the other stuff, which is not insignificant, and just go for the relationship. But I mean, what a sad turn of events that because you're a trans woman, the only person that you can get, quote unquote, is this person who happens to be homeless, jobless, penniless, eccentric, STD, cheat, blah, blah, blah. That's so unfortunate. Like, she's such a nice person. Couldn't she look just a little bit harder?
I think she should. I think she just still needs to find that confidence because she has glimmers of it where she says that she does deserve better.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's always that wavering.
Yeah. But I feel like the family pressure is so significant in the life of your relationship with somebody else that it can really make or break the whole thing. So,
You know what I'd like to see? Just got really excited.
oh, what?
I would really like to see Ingrid's mom
Yeah.
if she met Loren.
Ingrid's mom.
Mm-hmm.
So she would
remember when she
refuse to
met
eat with him and refuse to be in the same room with him? Yeah. She would have such intense prejudices against Loren. She probably wouldn't even breathe the same air as him.
I just think she would like just the looks that she would give him, the side eye. It would make him so uncomfortable. And I just kind of I'd really like to see that.
Yeah.
Because it seems like he's so comfortable with what he's doing and where he is and, you know, his character and his behavior. And no, you're disgusting. Stop it.
Well said.
Sorry.
Oh,
Got a little heated.
Nope. So my only remaining note is, do we know? Does Faith love Loren? We don't. Do we?
My last note was Faith does deserve more.
She does. I am agreeing with that 1000%. But I really hope that she doesn't turn whatever feelings it is that she has at the moment, which seem to be kind of on the fence, wavering back and forth. She doesn't turn those feelings into love because of the pressure that has been applied by her family. Because
I think if she is in love, she's in love with the idea of him and not the actual reality.
Yeah, because he is so very creepy.
Mm-hmm.
That foot massage, the whole wanting to sleep with other people, open marriage thing, and the leaky penis.
You said it, not me.
It's out there.
You said it.
I did. I'm sorry. I apologize. Shall we move on?
Apology accepted. And yes.
All right. There was no Tiger Lily and Adnan this week. There was no Niles and Matilda, which was very disappointing because I thought we were going to get to see him meet the famous Mr. Ark. But in next week's preview, we see that he does. So there's hope that we're going to get that episode next week.
I hope that it is next week, but I don't know.
And the previews were pretty bad. Like, it was nothing but trouble for Loren, for Brian, for Niles, for Magda, for Sunny, and for Vanya. I'm worried because I don't want to be sad or upset. But it looks like we're heading into that territory next week.
But we also know that Mr. Ark is a strange man.
Mm-hmm.
So I look forward, I think I said this last week, that I look forward to meeting this strange man and seeing what Matilda's definition of a strange man would be.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. All right, moving on to our bonus content. This week is for The Other Way, Season 6, Episode 20. This was the final episode before we get to the tell-all, and it was a very long episode. Yes, it's the end of the season. It's finally coming to a close. Let us begin with Corona and Inky.
Yeah, we not.
Well, yeah, okay. Would you rather begin with somebody else?
No, let's just rip off the band.
Yeah, let's go for it. So these two have resolved absolutely nothing, but at least they're not fighting anymore.
It actually kind of seemed as though they were having a good time at first.
Yes, naturally, when you're at this state of not having resolved your problems, but still not fighting, you go walk into a glacier, because why wouldn't you?
I thought that was so cool.
Yeah. But I felt it was a beautiful metaphor. Again, I'm always looking at the metaphors or analogies. They're walking into this cold, dark tunnel like their cold, dark heart.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes.
But then what's the meaning behind the echo that can be heard from the entrance?
No meaning. None. Sorry. Didn't take
Everyone
it that far.
knows that this is a mistake and no one cares. From the
Okay.
very beginning. Yes.
Let's go with that. Yep.
That's a reach.
So let's go to the chapel scene because that was probably the most awkward.
It's a chapel. She kept calling it a wedding chapel.
Exactly.
Why?
Why? Why do you need to add this particular descriptor? It's not a wedding chapel.
Stop creating your own narrative. Stop making things into what they aren't.
She is being so weird in this scene. And then she awkwardly reveals that she's rethinking things. Are you really? I mean, there's so much back and forth with this couple. My head is spinning a little bit. And on Inky's part, he's kind of sort of saying that maybe he'd like to get married someday. What? Last time it was the other way around. She desperately wanted to get married. He was totally against it. Now she's wanting to walk away and he's saying, I want to get married. Huh? What?
I believe I said this last week, that Inky is just a better actor than she is.
I believe he is. Yes, her acting is absolutely abysmal.
Ugh, it's so over the top. But he's playing into it, for the cameras.
Yes, because
I think he's actually having fun with it.
He's always seems to be having fun, no matter what situation. Even if they're fighting, he seems to be enjoying it somehow.
Yeah, he's just so happy-go-lucky, and he's so chill, and he's like, yeah, I'm playing this part. I can play this. Yeah, sure. Maybe we could get married in the future. I might like that.
The thing that is coming through so clearly for me when I watch these two interact is there is no emotion in any confrontation discussion. It's like a business meeting. Every time they sit down to talk, it's a business meeting. There's no tears. There's no cracking of the voice. There's no expression in the eyes. Where's that stuff? If you have real feelings for somebody, your feelings show in one way or another. Either you're touching the person or kissing them, or you have water leaking from your eyes. You smile a lot. You might touch their arm or their leg. No.
The glacier wasn't leaking, so they couldn't create any of the liquid ice stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. There was no heat in the chapel that made the ice, no intimacy, no nothing. There's absolutely nothing going on here. I've said this from the beginning. This couple is just absolute baloney.
Yeah. What happens next is that they go to the hot springs. So they did the cold, dark tunnel. Now they're going to the hot water, whatever that means. Are they thawing out? Are their emotions finally going to break through? No.
I think they're just warming up after being in a glacier, babe.
It's a different day. I thought it was a totally different day. Yeah. Because they're not wearing their
glacier right in.
They're not wearing the snowsuits that they were wearing before. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Change.
Doesn't matter. They're talking about how things can work out between the two of them, even though they just discussed Corona moving back to the US and going into her midwifery program, of course, as she was always going to do. So again, they've reversed the roles. Inky's being the confident one. He's trying to find a way to compromise. Corona is kind of backing off and being reticent about wanting to stay in Iceland. She wants to go back to the US. Okay, so it's a good twist. It's a good plot line. It's a good story, but still, I don't believe it. If it had been real, it would have been a perfect conclusion to their story. But again, there's no emotion. There's zero feelings. Nothing. If you were watching a movie and these were the leading lady and leading man, the movie would flop because there's zero chemistry between them.
They wouldn't even make it to the box office.
They do kiss in this scene. And I felt like, is this like the second time we've seen them kiss in the entire season? Or is this the only time we've seen them kiss? There's no passion.
I don't even remember them kissing.
Yeah, there's no passion when they kiss. It's like two buddies kissing as a joke.
Well, it is a joke.
Boring. Have you anything further to say on the Icelandic couple? Okay, let's go to China. Josh and Lily, will there be a payment for this goddamn wedding or not?
I don't believe this at all. The day of the wedding, 2 hours before people are supposed to arrive, Josh would obviously know whether or not his credit cards would work. Lily would know whether or not his credit cards would work. How is this a last minute thing? I don't believe it.
Yeah, I know it seems so contrived. I did see online that Josh was addressing this and saying that the wedding actually happened only a week after he arrived in China. And so his money didn't have time to go through whatever bureaucratic process that is required for it to reach China, which is why there was this issue with the money. So his funds had not yet landed there. So again, Jordan comes to the rescue. He has a bunch of cash.
Jordan? Jared?
For Christ's sake, why do I keep calling him Jordan?
I don't know, but I'm glad I picked up on that.
Thank you.
Normally it's me confusing the names.
Okay. Josh's brother, just say that. Josh's brother comes to the rescue with a bunch of cash. Josh has some cash. Lily takes out a last-minute online bank loan. I had no idea this was even a thing.
But on the phone. Not even online. On the phone.
But it's online. She's like, zip, zap, zoop, zap, zoop. Okay, I've got the money we need. Okay, why didn't you do that before? Anyway, she makes this really awful comment about herself because she's so stressed out in this moment. She says something about how she's going to be a hideous bride. And who do you think rescues her from that thought?
Jared?
Jordan.
Guy with the J name.
Yeah. So Jared, of course, reassures her that she's going to be a beautiful bride. And I was like, why isn't Josh saying this? Why is it always Jared who's saving any horrible situation that this couple gets themselves into? And what are they going to do when he moves back? When he flies back to the US, he's never moved to China in the first place. But when Jared goes back to the US, how are Josh and Lily going to survive without this guy who keeps saving their bacon every 5 minutes?
How are they going to communicate?
I actually wrote down Jordan. Wow. Okay. And now, time for the wedding. Are you ready for the wedding?
I was ready for the food. There wasn't enough food featured. That reminds me, when Loren and Faith get to her family's place, they gift them dried squid. I love dried squid. I haven't had it in so long. It is so delicious, and now I must source them out. But anyway, back to this. They had salad, lobster, and I believe it was ceviche, which just doesn't sound right. But that's what it looked like. They're just not enough focus on the food. Not for me.
Okay. But did you like the fact that the wedding ceremony itself was very theatrical? It was like a movie set. No, you're not saying anything.
Yeah, I thought it was a little. I thought it was a lot of fun. I loved the theatricalness of it, but it almost seems like it's less impactful or less impressive because we just saw Josh and Tata's big
James.
Indonesian
James.
See? Yeah, I can't. Those two we just saw their big Indonesian wedding, which was very, very dramatic. So this one was a lot more subdued. I still thought it was beautiful. I thought I thought Lily looked absolutely beautiful. Yeah, that's all I got. Why?
Okay.
It looks like you're prying me for something more.
No, I was just curious what you thought about it. I loved it as well. But the thing that I noticed when I was watching Josh is that he really seemed to come into his own at the wedding. He looked the happiest that he's ever been. He was more animated than we've ever seen him. He was really thriving. And I wondered, is it because it's theater? Is he somebody who is interested in theater, has done theater, or wants to do theater? And so this was really his element. I don't know, but that just kind of occurred to me because it was like going to watch a play. And the way that he was playing his part so seriously and so with such dedication, I thought maybe this guy's a closet actor, or maybe he's not in the closet as far as acting goes. Maybe he's totally out there. I don't know, but just random thoughts.
Interesting. I don't know if I noticed that while I was watching it, but you know what I did notice? What is how incredibly awkward it was when I think it was her daughter or someone else at the table said, "Show me how you kiss."
Yes.
Who?
Yes, that was the daughter who asked them to kiss. Uh-huh.
No. Oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was the phrasing, because how many weddings have you been to where the clinking of the glasses or something gets the bride and groom to kiss, but the show me how was just
Maybe
so
it's
strange.
just the translation.
Translation, it
Yeah.
could be. It was strange.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll grant you that. It was strange. There were some odd moments. But overall, I was really happy with the wedding. I thought it went wonderfully. The clincher, the caveat, the but part came at the end when we heard both Josh and Lily talking to the camera privately, of course. Josh is still talking about all of Lily's faults, and she is also doing the same thing. Neither one of them has worked on themselves, has figured out a way to communicate effectively with the other so that they feel heard and understood. So my impression is that unless they do eventually seek that kind of help and move forward with good communication rather than the absolutely abysmal communication that they have right now, their chances are not so great for surviving.
I don't know how they're going to survive with their communication issues being this bad.
Yeah, the constant blaming, the vicious cycle of blaming each other and one-upping each other all the time and using the hyperbole, you always do that, you never do this. So detrimental to their relationship. Yeah.
I agree.
And on that happy note, shall we move on
to another happy note?
Yes. James and Tata. Wow, there was no crying in this scene. Not at all. I'm so relieved because I thought, oh boy, I really hope Tata doesn't cry again. I really don't think I can take it. And she didn't. So I was so happy. What about you?
I want to make one comment, kind of a bridge or a segue between Josh and Lily and James and Tata regarding the wedding. James and Tata did not feature any food at all. So at least in Josh and Lily's wedding, we got to see something. That was the biggest downfall of James and Tata's wedding, the lack of food.
You're welcome.
That's my segue.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Please, let's
let's tackle this because wow, a lot happens. And it's more of all of the same, right? James is packing. He's going back to the US. Tata is only going to go as far as Jakarta with him. How did they get here? Like, I felt like as I was watching this, did I miss an episode somewhere in between? Because the last time we were talking about this, they were discussing the possibility of going back to the US together, but they hadn't really come to a resolution. And then there was the mention of wanting Angel to go with them, but that's only Tata who wants that. And now all of a sudden, James is going back. He's got his ticket. Tata doesn't. She's not going back. And she's basically put this absolute condition. It's an ultimatum, in my view, that he has to sponsor Angel. Otherwise, she's not going to come back to the US.
Why does everything revolve around Angel now?
Yes, please, somebody answer me this, because I don't understand it one bit. We didn't hear anything about Angel at all until they got, 3 episodes into their stay in Indonesia when she finally shows up, which is only for the traditional wedding ceremony. And we found out that she was awful to James and tried to break the couple up. And yet Tata is so incredibly dependent on her sister, who lives thousands of miles away, that she wants her to come to the US.
Why is it a condition now, but it wasn't a condition previously?
Yeah.
What happened?
I'm really not getting it. I feel like we've missed out on a huge chunk of conversations.
I thought it was funny that James decided that he was going to book his flight back to the US and not tell Tata right away.
So mature.
And also not tell anyone.
I know. This guy is incapable of moving or traveling without keeping it a secret from the most important people who need to know about his moving or traveling. I can't believe he did it again.
Do you think that Tata's going to have an issue with him flying home alone without consulting her?
Oh.
Oh.
No way.
I mean, why would she? She'd not go. Have fun.
I'll see ya.
Angel's going to go back to Bali, which is like 13 hours away, and then she's just going to sell banana chips. And that's what she wants to do because she's close enough to Angel.
Exactly. Like, how is this a good situation if Tata is so dependent on her sister that she needs her in the US before she'll move back? Why doesn't she insist on her living in Indonesia with her at her parents' house or nearby, rather than having Sister Angel going back to Bali where she can't see her at all? Huh?
I don't know. And then I wonder, are there any data analysis roles down in Bali? Because didn't she say that the closest was Jakarta and it was like 8 hours away?
Yeah.
Okay, Bali's 13, but why don't you go stay with your sister?
Yeah. I don't understand any of that. I don't think we're going to get anywhere in trying to figure it out for ourselves, because clearly we don't have all the pieces to this puzzle. So I want to go back to the fact that James and Tata didn't discuss this at all. Like you said, he booked the ticket. She didn't know. He reveals that he's booked the ticket, and then she digs in her heels and says, "I'm not going with you." And both of them are finding fault with each other for their position, which I thought was hilarious. They are both equally to blame, and yet they're both equally blaming the other 100%.
Because neither of them have any integrity.
Okay. I felt like they're playing a game of chicken with each other to see which one is going to flinch first. It's emotional chicken with your spouse. I'm going to buy a ticket. I'm going to see if I buy the ticket, is she going to buy a ticket too? And then for her side, oh, he's bought a ticket. I'm not going to go with him. I'm going to see if he's going to stay.
But could she even buy a ticket even if she wanted to?
Oh, I'm sure she could say to him, just get the ticket for me, if she can't do it herself. A side note, definitely.
Okay.
I think the more important thing here is they're playing this game with each other. They're both manipulating each other. They both feel abandoned. They both feel overlooked. They both feel misunderstood. And yet their behavior is doing exactly the right thing to reinforce that in their partner.
And to facilitate it.
Yep. It's like, you want me to trust you more? Okay, I'm going to buy a ticket to the other side of the world without you knowing.
I'm going to go home and not tell you or your family, nor am I going to tell my family. I'm also not going to know how to get home from the airport because I didn't tell anyone that I was coming home.
Jeez.
Like, both of them are just, they're just so immature and
It hurt.
I can't take either one of them seriously.
And then the fact that they haven't told Tata's parents what's happening, that they're going on this train ride with them, but in fact, rather than just going to Jakarta to ride the high-speed train together as a family and then go back home.
But at least they bought the right train tickets.
Small victories. Gotta celebrate them. Come on. And then when they get there, James is going to have to reveal, I'm not coming back. Actually, he did it before they left, but nevertheless, like,
why so many bags?
Why do you have such a large suitcase for an overnight? What? Do they ever tell the truth? I mean, do they go through their entire lives acting this way? It's so bizarre.
I believe so. Yeah. How did they get to be this age?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's probably being coddled too much by the parents. I don't know. I wanted to remark on the fact that when Tata is translating for James, because of course he has to tell the parents that he's not coming back, she is doing it like a robot. He says he isn't coming back. She's like gone into a catatonic state or something. She's dissociated? Is that what it is? When you cut yourself off from your feelings?
I think she was just completely playing into it because, her parents need to see how upset she is and how she has to digest what he's saying and then say it to them, but also not translate anything properly.
Yeah, what a mess. The parents are devastated. Mom is particularly heartbroken that James is going back, that they don't understand why Tata isn't going with him. You'd think that they would be happy a little bit that their daughter is staying, but I think they're more upset that he's leaving and that they're not staying together as a couple since they are married. And then there's this whole issue that the mom brings up with, oh, what if he's not a good boy when he's back in the US by himself? Which, of course, is another interesting thing to consider because we know that Tata is a very jealous person, that she is completely insecure in her relationship with her husband. So this is going to be even worse for their experience, that he's going back, that she's jealous, that she's going to imagine all kinds of things happening that may or may not be happening, who knows? And he's going to have to deal with her from a long, long distance. Try to regulate her emotions because she is clearly not stable enough to regulate them by herself.
Messy. They do not make smart and or safe decisions. That's my final thought.
Excellent. We have one more couple to get through before we reach the end.
Okay, let's do this.
Okay. Sean and Joanne, you know what? I have gone from one end of the spectrum to the other with regards to this couple. Do you feel the same way? I was so hopeful and happy and thought, okay, this is a semi-decent normal couple, to now I'm thinking, these people are just bad. They're not good. They're selfish.
Very. Very.
So when we open our scene, we've got Joanne still in Ireland. It's only been 4 days since her two sons left to go back to the States. She's having a video chat with her oldest son, Joey. She's asking him if her youngest has said anything about the situation. And of course, that is that she wants to move to Ireland and she and Sean are already married and blah, blah, blah. But I just love Joey. He's so mature. He's so considerate and he's so honest. I love the way he positions himself in this conversation.
And he communicates very clearly.
Yes, he does. He gives her permission to go initially. He says, it's your life. You've got to go live it. But he also says that he really wants his mom to be close. He wants his mom to be in the same country as him. Of course he does. And it is not his burden to have to make this choice for her. I found it disgusting that Joanne is putting the burden on both of her kids to say, it's up to you whether or not I get to move to Ireland. No.
That's not how this works.
No. You are the parent, not them. And yes, you have to make the choice, but in this case, there is only one right choice to make, which is to stay with your kids until they're old enough, until they're secure enough, until they're whatever, in a good place, and you've been honest with them about who you're married to, so that you can leave them and still have a solid connection to them. You don't tell them at ages, 12 and 8? 16 and 12? 16 and 12.
Yeah.
That you want to live in Ireland with this brand new husband that you've just presented to them, who is not brand new, and then they have to decide whether or not it's okay for you to go?
No. Way to shift it.
Yeah.
You said I could go. She doesn't respect their emotions or their decisions, and it's just so blatantly obvious that as much as she claims that her kids are her number one, they're not.
Well, she seems like she's trying to please everybody, and her attitude changes based on who she's talking to.
Yeah.
And I found that really evident when she was talking to Joey. She's having this conversation. He reveals his true feelings, and she takes that on, and she has the good sense to respond by saying, okay, I'm going to stay in the US because basically what you've just told me is no, I don't want you to move to Ireland, so I'm going to stay. Okay, fine. She's making the right choice. Good. But then when she goes to Sean to say basically what she's just discussed with Joey, I'm not moving to Ireland, she kind of waffles and doesn't tell him really what the conversation was about. She gives it a half-hearted, it's a very wishy-washy approach. And I just found that insincere. And we've seen that not just through their actions because of not telling anybody, but in the way that she speaks to people, her mom, her sons, and her husband, and even her friend who was there before. She changes what the perspective is on the problem, depending on the person, and makes it kind of accommodate them, which I find to be kind of dishonest.
I can definitely see that.
So when she and Sean talk about the fact that they're going to have to carry on this long distance relationship, I mean, from the get-go, really, there was no other way that this could happen, because you've made this very stupid, this very irrational choice to get married without telling anybody, and now you have to deal with it. You have gotten married without a plan for how you're going to accommodate both of your families, all of the children involved in this situation. You've only thought about yourselves. So, yeah, what's next? And she presents to Sean in her wishy-washy way, oh, the kids may change their minds in a month or two. What? You're just throwing false hope out there. Nobody said anything like this. This was not discussed. This is just her wishful thinking.
Wishful thinking. No, thank you, Joanne.
So reality sets in for Sean, and he says, basically, he doesn't want to do the long distance. He doesn't know if he can do the long distance thing
for another 6 years.
Yeah. And it seems like the burden of travel is going to be entirely on her, since he is not allowed to go to the US at this point. And she doesn't know when she can next come. She says even to Sean that she's unsure of whether or not her youngest will be comfortable with her going to Ireland for a trip in the next few months because of this trauma that they both inflicted on the two sons. So, yikes.
Just so awful. I can't imagine making all of these decisions and being so surprised that it's not going as well as you had hoped. And I think her wishy-washiness is because she just doesn't want to take responsibility for her decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So she tries to gloss over it based on who she's talking to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really quite sad.
Awful.
Any other notes? All right. We did not have Dempsey and Statler.
Yay.
We did have Shekinah and Sarper. I don't know if you watched their segments or not. I did. And I do want to just mention very quickly and very briefly, we have already seen the wedding proposal on 90 Day Fiancé UK that Sarper did this past week with Shekinah. We saw the exact same thing, the same boat, the same Marry Me sign on the bridge with Shane and Mert It's been done before. I know Sarper is probably fuming that he didn't have an original thought and that we've already seen this in the 90 Day Fiancé world of all places. Predictable.
Didn't watch it. Wouldn't have known.
And next week is the tell-all. Wow.
How many tell-alls are we going to have this round, though?
That is the great question of all. Shall we place bets? 68 is my guess, in order to sort through the rubble of this season's destructive relationships.
There's a lot to unpack here, but we'll come back to it.
We'll come back to it. I want to dig into that, but just after we follow this couple for 5 minutes. Oh, please, Sean, just get to the point.
No,
please, please, please.
No,
I didn't understand why Sean is at the tell-all, because if he's not allowed to travel to the US, if he's incapable of getting a visa, how is it that he's there?
Perhaps they got all that visa stuff sorted out. I mean, they would have to.
They would have to. Anyway, it looks like it's going to be fairly spicy, shall we say? I'm thinking that Sean is going to be very hard to take, if that's a nice way to put it.
Like Joanne Sean?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he seems really belligerent, and
I don't remember this at all.
And vicious. And also it looks like Corona is going to be on a rampage of nastiness towards Inky.
Yes. She gives him the finger at some point, doesn't she?
Well, that's just the tiniest tip of the iceberg.
Glorious.
Yeah.
So mature.
Yes. She's going to be a nasty, nasty girl. All right. Any last comments?
Nope. No. You?
That is not a comment. That is an anti-comment.
Well, it was an explosive ending of Before the 90 Days.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to wrapping up the other way.
Yes. Yes. Me too. And also starting The Last Resort. Swampy stuff is coming.
I'm not looking forward to that.
No. But we're going to have some interesting things to say, aren't we?
Of course we will.
Because the more disgusting the situation, the more crazy we get.
And uncensored.
I didn't want to mention that, but yes, we are not planning to censor ourselves as we do on this show.
As much.
Yes. Good. All right. Well, I think all that remains is to close the show. So, before we go, if you're enjoying the 90 Day Fiancé Honestly podcast, please subscribe to or give our show a follow. And if you have an additional moment, please rate us and help other 90 Day fans to find our show. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next week.